You're watching Victory Outdoors.
Well, folks, spring turkey season couldn't have gone better for us here at Victory Outdoors. We had a blast. Knocked down 22 birds on film, and for an 8-man crew, that is awesome. So, pretty pumped about how spring turkey went, and now it is time to get working on some food plots. After we've assessed which areas we actually want to disc up in this food plot and reseed, we're going to disc it not very deep and not very many times. We actually just want to expose the soil because the sorghum and sunflowers don't need to be seeded very deep. So we're actually going to disc it once or twice, depending on what it looks like, and then we're going to broadcast seed it. This particular property is intensely managed mostly for upland game birds. It's 80 acres that is mostly seeded down to native prairie. Alright, now we've got it disced up, and now we're ready to broadcast seed our sorghum and sunflower mix. Alright, we got pretty good coverage with the seed. It's important to note that we don't want to get too much seed out there. More is not always a good thing. More plants doesn't necessarily mean more food. With grain food plots especially grain sorghum and sunflowers, you want the right number of seeds per square foot. You don't actually want too high of a population. It will actually hurt the yield, and the yield equals food for your pheasants, deer, and turkeys. So we actually think we got a pretty good spread here, and now next up is to cover it with a little bit of dirt. And you'll notice we're not going to bury this stuff. We're not going to drag that disc as deep as we did when we first worked it up. It'll be a very shallow disking with the harrow behind it, and that should give us enough coverage of soil to go ahead and get these things germinated and growing. One interesting tip that we want to mention here is we actually planted some clover last spring, and it was basically around some of our grain food plots, and essentially we made the food plot smaller, at least the grain part of it smaller, and we had less corn there, but we had clover, red clover, growing around it. Clover fixes nitrogen into the soil, which can be utilized by the corn. Now, what we're actually going to do with this is we're going to disc up the entire plot, and what that will do is it's called green manure. We're actually going to disc up that clover, and that clover will actually help feed our new food plot. Well, folks, food plot project complete. Well, at least one of them anyway. I'd like to thank Jacob Groth for allowing me to come out and give him a helping hand. I've helped him a couple of different times with his food plots, and he does an awesome job, and it's always nice to be able to have that big equipment to use. Makes it a lot easier. I know not everybody has that big equipment, but just use what you got and what you have available. Check with the neighbors or farmers in your area and see if they can help you out on your ground. It really doesn't cost a whole lot, and especially if you can hold off until they've got their crops in the ground and they're a little less busy. Either that, or maybe catch them before they get in the field and get it lined up, and when they can get out there real quick, especially if they're going to be in the area, maybe doing some disking or something like that, they can work up your food plot while they're there. Maybe they just got to cross the road, or cross over into the field and go ahead and work that up for you. That's a lot. It might cost you a little something, but it definitely isn't going to cost you as much as it would if they had to make a special trip. So check into that, see if you can coordinate that out, and that actually might help you get that food plot in a lot easier. But like I said, use what you got. If you got a four-wheeler that has a drag, you can probably do a lot with that depending on what you're planting. And I've even used hand tools. Just raked it up, because a lot of this stuff, especially clovers and your other fall seeded stuff that you do, that stuff is only really needs seed to soil contact. It's not like the grain plants where you have to get that grain seed an inch or possibly even 2 inches in the ground. That's not needed with your clovers and your brassicas, turnips, and that kind of thing. You really only need seed to soil contact with that. So our next project for food plots anyway is actually going to be in late July or early August, and we'll be planting our last Heartbeat by Monster X. And we planted this last year before they had it on the market, and it was phenomenal for us. So look forward to that. We'll go ahead and put together another video on how we're actually going to be using that. And stay tuned to Victory Outdoors. We hope to have lots more for you all throughout the summer about what we're doing in the great outdoors.
Victory Outdoors is proudly presented by Twisted Timber Tree Stands, Monster Rex, Long Beard Life, Carbon Synergy, Red Hill Outdoorsman, Watson Airlock, Personal Camera Buddy, Mossy Oak, and Scout Look Weather.